If you were on the internet in 2016, chances are you remember the IO game craze. Unlike most IO games, Diep wasn't just about surviving. It had like RPG mechanics, it had skills, upgrades, unique classes, and surprisingly high skill ceiling as well. This very simple game about circles became one of the biggest browser games ever made at that time. And then the game almost disappeared. So let me show you the complete history of Diep IO. To understand why Diep IO became such a success, we first need to go back to 2015. There was this Brazilian developer, his name is Matheus Valadares, but he's better known online as M28. If you didn't know, he had created the games such as Agar.io, which became one of the biggest games on the internet. Every single YouTuber played it, and actually you can find the gameplays now, in this age. In that age, 3 games emerged from every single IO game. There was Agar.io, then Slither.io, and last but not the least, on the 3rd place, there was this game called Diep.io. It officially launched on April 16th, 2016 as a free browser game. The concept, as all of the IO games, was incredibly simple. You just spawned as a tiny tank, you destroyed squares, triangles, pentagons to gain XP. And as you leveled up, you invested these points into things like health, reloads, bullet damage, movement speed, and so on. There were players who loved to be glass cannon, then there are rammers, bullet spammers, drone commanders, and so on, so it actually mattered what you wanted to play. Interestingly, the very first version of the game was quite different. The maximum level was actually 60 instead of 45. There was no visual class tree, and many of tank names players recognize today were actually suggested by early community members during the game's first days. One of the reasons that IO exploded so quickly was simple. It changed almost every week. Throughout 2016, new updates arrived constantly. Entire tank branches, game modes were introduced. There were also some balance changes, and the game also received team deathmatch, domination, survival, maze, sandbox, tag, and even mothership mode. One week everyone was using Destroyer, the next week Overlord dominated. Then players discovered completely different strategies. No one really knew what the strongest tank was because the meta never stopped evolving. Those ones who were checking the channel log constantly, they knew the ball, By late 2016, Diep.io had become one of the biggest browser games in the world. The timing couldn't have been better. The entire internet was obsessed with IO games. YouTubers played that almost every day. What made Diep.io special wasn't its graphics, it was its depth. Despite looking like a game from circles and rectangles, the mechanics were surprisingly advanced. For instance, recoil could be used for movement. Every stat point mattered. Experienced players could immediately recognize someone's build simply by watching them fight. And last but not least, some tanks became legendary. The Overlord is an easy pick. It is still considered by many players to be one of the strongest and highest skill tanks in the game. But eventually, the updates became less frequent. After the 2016, development gradually slowed down. And from 2018 onwards, there were long periods with almost no significant content updates. The game wasn't dead, the server still worked, people still played every day, but compared to its early years, things felt quiet. At the same time, the IO game bubble itself was bursting. Many large YouTubers moved on to the newer games, the player count dropped dramatically compared to the peak years, yet something remarkable happened. The community stayed, even without frequent updates. They were still creating guides, organizing tournaments, and discovering new strategies. Very few browser games survive for years without major updates. Diep somehow did it. Then, in 2021, one of the biggest moments in the game's history happened. Do you remember the Matthews? He sold the game to Addicting Games. For many players, this came as a surprise. Some hoped development would finally become active again. Others worried the game would lose what made it special. The new owners migrated servers, worked on the mobile version, introduced quality of life improvements, and gradually resumed regular updates. But the transition wasn't perfect. Some servers issues appeared. Community opinions were mixed, but after years of near silence, Diep was finally evolving again. But in 2024, another major announcement arrived. Addicting Games sold Diep once again, this time to 3 AM experiences. Unlike previous years, updates suddenly became much more frequent. The developers refreshed the interface, improved mobile support, added anti-cheat improvements, introduced new game modes like Breakout, brought back classic content, added controller support, and continued expanding the game throughout 2025 and beyond. I mean, sure, the game may never return to its massive 2016 players numbers, but for the first time in years, it felt alive again. I mean, one of the biggest events there were in this game was actually the 10th anniversary update, which was something. I mean, this game mode didn't stay for long, but it's better than the silent stage, right? Well, looking back at Diep's history, it's very unusual. Most browser games explode in popularity and disappear a year later. Diep almost followed that path. It experienced an incredible rise, a long period of silence, multiple ownership changes, and yet it somehow survived. Nearly a decade after its release, players are still logging in, experimenting with builds, climbing the leaderboard, and arguing over which tank is actually the best. Maybe that's the secret behind Diep. Yeah, I know there are some copycats which claim that those are actually more complex, but I'm gonna make a video about them alone, so don't worry guys. And whether you remember the chaotic days of 2016, or you're only discovering it today, which isn't probable, Diep has already earned its place as one of the most influential IO games ever made. Wish you have a nice rest of the day and bye bye.